again, and it's, I believe it's June 6th, I think, 5th or 6th, 6th maybe. Really, really dry out. So you gotta be careful when you slide down these slopes. The first round already been sliding. The tractor doesn't bite in like it would when it's a little more moist. But the ground is so dry, we should be able to get dry hay. The sun ain't out right now, but they're kind of talking no rain. And even if it does rain, I guess we gotta kind of look at the positives of that if it does. So, very tall orchard grass, and we had no wind this spring at all. Nothing is knocked down or lodged up like it can be. Like all of us that do this know, it's gonna be quite a tangled mess at times. It really cuts nice like this. That's a John Deere 630, just over 10 feet width discbine. I've owned this machine probably, oh goodness, it could be 10 years now. I'd have to look back. I mean, I've been through several mowers. It's such a rough farm, and these things, like different things like the drive line and stuff, really catches havoc when you're making all those tight turns all the time. And this one's got a pretty heavy drive line compared to some of the ones I had in the past, but it's also, the machine is just plain heavy, so you're dragging around a lot of weight. Seen a fawn jump out on the other end by our shed there, and in this tall grass. I mean, been known to run them over in the past in other years. I mean, I know it's been a later spring, so once they get a little bit older, they're able to run a bit. They more likely jump out of the way, but if they're pretty new, they run over, and then I just hate to see that. I've had them where I've seen them struggling, and you stop and just give them time to run out of the way. You don't want to touch them. They claim if you touch them, the mother won't take them back. At least that's what I've heard. And the other day, checking fence on the other side of our farm, I had the same thing happen. Checking fence, almost stepped on one. I didn't touch them. And then I finished checking the line. It was along a hay field, really, really tall orchard grass, and I couldn't figure out why the mother's hissing at me. It was actually two does there, I think, what they were. And I guess they were looking, and they were trying to distract me, so I didn't see their young. And I think they used themselves as a bait to lure the predator away, maybe, or something. They got their, here they got their tricks. There we went sliding. We didn't have the four-wheel on. Surprise, surprise. I take it off and I make the turn, and then I just forgot to put it back on. Boy, that stuff's tall. A lot of backing up. This farm is so crooked. We finished mowing, and maybe I'll just go through what this machine actually, how this machine really works. We might as well start under here. This is what they call a discbine, and you see those oval looking things, they call those pods, and then there's a knife on there that swings, and they're starting to get a little beat up. These spin extremely fast. Now you see the one on the outside, it'll throw the hay in, so both outsides will throw it in. You got these spinners here, so it brings the hay in to our conditioning rolls. These rubber over the top of some steel rolls, and then you see that big spring up there. That's designed that if a stick or a heavy slug of hay would happen to get going through there, it can flex. You know, it gives a bit so that you don't end up breaking things. And there's actually cranks. I think there's some adjustments maybe here to tighten the spring more, put more tension on or less tension on. And you can also space your rolls so that the space between each roll can be a little bit more. Right now it's just so they don't touch. Maybe depending on what the crop is, you know, grasses and alfalfas versus maybe some other heavier stemmed crops. And then these knives, that's a replaceable knife, and this piece is replaceable. The bolt can be replaced too. I believe there's even some kind of shearing device in here if this would happen to hit something heavy. These are fairly inexpensive compared to what a sickle mower was, and they're more forgiving far as they can get a little dinged up. So this thing acts a little more like a lawnmower as it mows. I guess for quality mowing, your sickle mower is going to be better as far as cutting the stem like a scissor versus this almost whacking it off in a sense, I guess. I used to have one where this here used to be able to flip this over, and I think you can do that with these, but it puts the angle here different, where this angle is underneath, and they're slightly twisted too. There's different configurations of that. But anyway, when I did that, you were able to use more of your knife. You know, you had a fresh edge here. So I've even just went here with the angle grinder and kind of touched them up a little bit. Especially the ones on the end, they kind of take a beating from the edge of the field. So that's how that works. And the whole thing from one end to the other, I believe it's like 10'2" or 10'3" or something. And then we're gonna go in the back here. Now we got this lever over here with all these notches in it for settings. That would be our swath board. Up or down, and the swath board, we have it all the way in the down position, which would make the hay as wide as the rolls. And there's actually some pieces, I took them out. It's because they kind of interfere when you want to cut for baling, but they'll funnel the hay to a narrower swath, like for instance for chopping. And then you got your slot for adjustments in here. They're almost just like a big fin, and then it hinges right in here. I got those in the shop right now, one of those on each side. So then there's like a big finger nut up on the top here, which you can loosen without using a wrench, and then set it to wherever you want it to make the width. So right now, if I put that swath board all the way up, my hay would fly out way back here. And that's great because it fluffs it more, but when you get on a side hill like that, like we've got here, it has a tendency of all the hay piling up on the low side. It almost swats it more to a narrower windrow than a wider one. So it doesn't necessarily work so well on a steep hill. Then we got these nice big flotation tires, which help hold us up on the hills. Gives you a lot of ground contact. And then of course right here, there's a lever on the cylinders, so that when we raise this in the up position, instead of it leaning on our tractor hydraulics, you can lock this so that it can't come down by itself with your in case a hose would break, or maybe more like when you're going down the road, or when it's just in the storage position. And then here we have a turnbuckle, and some of them, I think they may put a cylinder in here in this spot, and you can spin, there's thread inside here, And I can flip this here up. This just holds it from undoing itself. And then I could turn that by hand to either tip the header down or up. And that gives us some kind of, you know, our height. Like on our new seeding, after we cut our straw, we like to cut it a little on the taller side because they got a lot of dirt and, you know, you're kind of unevenness yet. And then down here, there's a, and by God, I see I got a pin missing there. I'll have to find something to put into that. But anyway, there's settings here too, and there's pins here. And same thing on the other side. This would be like a shoe. So more of the weight is on those shoes instead of wearing your front of your cutter bar so much. So there's a lot of flex in here with this big spring and a crank up here on both sides. And it gives you flotation. So your machine is able to mold to the earth it's on. So if you got unevenness, it will cut very evenly that way. And you can put more and more tension on these springs to get or less tension. Up here we got a big cylinder, and this is like a little lifesaver on this farm. You know, you got really crooked fields, you'd like to have that. And that's what we call a hydraulic tongue. So here's our pole, this is our tractor, and then that it pivots right in there. There's a huge pin through there. So your cylinder, you're able to widen out or pull it inward depending on whether you're on the low side or the upper side when you're mowing hay. So you can center your tractor on over the windrow as you're cutting where you've already cut. So you're not actually driving on cut hay as much. Years ago, they never offered that. I guess somebody had to ask one time what we're cutting with. 7510 John Deere, which we've bought this new back in 03. It only had 500 hours on it with still new warranty. And this is kind of a sweet size for us. So there you go. That's your rundown of your mowing hay with the 630 Moco, which stands basically for mower conditioner, and the conditioning is your rolls kind of squeezing the hay. And if you want to know what the conditioner does, so you got all these heavy stems of hay. Typically most of the water is in the stem, not so much in the leaf. So as it goes through the rolls, it'll kink it here, 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 you know, so every few inches there's like a break in it, and that allows the water to get out a little quicker as far as drying time, which right now it's very dry. And we're been getting mid to upper 80s every day, and sun and some hazy clouds, but it's dry. So we may not need to ted. We may have hay dry sooner than we typically normally would when we're getting moisture. So there you go. There's your rundown.